All right, here we go. Let's get started. So the last example we did was example 5. So this one is going to be example 6. So like I said, this is not a new section. It's just the continuation. It's just this chapter had a lot of stuff in there. So I decided to break it up into small, manageable bites. What's awful? Oh, okay. All right, so negative 2i times 8 minus 9i. Any thoughts on what property we should probably do? That's what I would do. So negative 2i times 8 is negative 16i. Negative 2i times negative 9i. Two negatives equal a. 2 times 9 is, and I times I is. Can we simplify that? What is I squared the same as? It is. So negative 16i plus 18 times negative 1. 18 times negative 1 is... Now, is it better to have the real number in front or the imaginary? The real should be in front. So which is the real number? So I'm going to rewrite this to put the negative 18 in front. Minus 16i. That is your final answer. That wasn't too terrible. And we're a quarter of the way through today's lesson. And it's been 1:48. So example 7. Parentheses 3 minus 2i times 1 plus 4i. So instead of doing distributive property once, we're going to do distributive property twice. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 4i is... And now we go on to our second term. Negative 2i plus 1. Negative 2i times 4i. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. And I times I is I squared. That'll get you half credit. To get full credit, what we need to do is break this down and combine like terms. So the 3 is just chilling right now. 12i minus 2i is 10i. But now we're going to split this into two pieces. The I squared is the same as negative 1. So what is negative 8 times negative 1? Positive 8. What's 8 plus 3? That is your final answer. Good job. I'm not surprised. Questions, comments, concerns? Johnny, you good with this? Wait, I'm confused. Was that Johnny that answered that? I said John not. I thought. Did I? Did I? I meant John not. Okay. I recorded it. We can look when I'm done. So. All right, let's continue on. We're halfway done. Dividing. Dividing complex numbers. Just wait till we do it with numbers and letters. Next chapter. Yeah, we're doing that next chapter. Multiply the numerator, that means the top of a fraction, and the denominator by the complex conjugate of the denominator. So that's clear as day. I don't think I need to explain that anymore. Everyone knows what a complex conjugate is, right? Yeah. All right, example 8. Ten divided by 2 minus I. So it says, multiply the numerator and the denominator by the complex conjugate of the denominator. So we look at the denominator. There's an I there. Elise does not like I's in her denominator, and that is exactly correct. So we need to get rid of it. To do so, we multiply by the complex conjugate, which just simply means instead of 2 minus I, it's going to be 2 plus I. That's all conjugate means, is you switch the sign. So if you do it to the bottom, you must do it to the top. Huh? Yeah, well, we're not doing that. All right, so now we're going to multiply straight across. 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times I is not weight. 10 times 2 is 20. 10 times I is 10I. All right, good? What's not good? All I did is take the minus and turn it into a plus. If it was a plus, I would turn it into a, and it's only for the second term. We don't care about the first term. No. Because Elise doesn't like I's imaginary friends in her denominator, so we need to get rid of it. All right, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 was 4. 2 times I is 2I. And now we go on to the second term. Negative I times 2 is negative 2I. Negative I times I is negative I squared. So we have a lot of stuff going on here. Let's see if we can't simplify this. What is 2I minus 2I? It cancels out. 2I minus 2I is 0. Yes. I squared is the same as negative 1. So really we have 4 minus negative 1. 2 negatives equal a... So what's 4 plus 1? 5 over 20 plus 10I. Thank you. I was going to get it. Is that my final answer? Well, will it reduce? Will 5 go into 20? Will 5 go into 10I? Thank you. Yes, it will. 5 goes into 20 4 times. 5 goes into 10I 2I times. Is my real number in front of my imaginary number? Yes. That's your final answer. All right. Example 9. And then we're done with notes for today. Yep. All right, so 4 minus 3i divided by negative 1 plus 2i. So Kyla, we learned a new word. It's complex conjugate. All that means is we take this middle sign and switch it. So it's positive right now, so it's going to turn into, because Elise doesn't like imaginary numbers in her denominator, so we got to get rid of them. So here we go, negative 1 minus 2i. And if I do it to the bottom, I must do it to the top. So this is only one step harder than the last problem.
So what happens to the 4 minus 3i?
Huh?
What happens to the 4 minus 3i?
It's still there. We're going to multiply it right now. All right, so 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. 4 times negative 2i is negative 8i. Then we go on to the second term. Negative 3i times negative 1 is, all right, negative 3i times negative 2i. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6i times I is I squared. All right, so let's try the bottom now. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. Negative 1 times negative 2i is 2i times negative 1 is 2i times negative 2i squared. I times I is I squared. All right, so now let's try and simplify what we can here. So remember, I squared is the same as negative 1. So this is really 6 times negative 1, which is negative 6. So I'm going to combine my like terms. Negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the imaginary numbers. Negative 8i plus 3i is, if I borrow 8 i's and I only pay back 3, how many more do I still owe you? Negative 5i. So now let's look at the bottom. 2i minus 2i is 0. So that really cancels out. It goes away. So this is negative 4 times I squared. I squared is the same as, all right, negative 4 times negative 1 is plus 4, right? So now what's left on bottom? 1 plus 4, which is, will that reduce down? Negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2, and negative 5i divided by 5 is negative, it's just I, negative 1i or negative I. All right, that's today's lesson. I didn't do any checks today because I'd rather you work on the homework, and if you get stuck, I can help you.